Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour, sponsored by Lake Monster Brewing and That's Badass Wood Art. Remember to head over to that'sbadasswoodart.com. Use promo code CTPocket for 20% off any one item. Joined today, I don't know when this is going to really air, but it's Damian Parson, the Draft Network. How are you doing, my guy?
Tired, man. You know what I mean? A lot of running around and stuff for these last 2 weeks, week and a half of the draft, draft prep. But yeah, just having fun with it, man. Just having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's I feel like Ryan and I have had conversations that it's interesting in this period because you're past like the top guys. Like everybody kind of knows about the top guys, and now it's really getting into those late day 2, day 3. Like we're hearing all these other different names of like we'll keep an eye out for. I mean, maybe not a late round guy, but Jonathan Mingo's been getting a lot of attention and rightfully so. But yeah, it's a crazy time.
No, it's a lot of fun, man. I mean, once you get through those, you just start seeing recycled clips on Twitter of the same play for
Yep.
Bijan Robinson versus Baylor, and it's just like it gets redundant. So it's like being able to, especially in my position, knowing that part of my job is to go as deep into the draft as possible, and then you start stumbling upon guys that no one's really talking about. You're like, man, like there's a path for success for this kid. And the main thing is like everybody that we talk about or hype up, whether it's on a podcast or on Twitter or YouTube, doesn't mean they're going to be a star, but they can be an impact player in some shape or form, whether that's, on offense, defense, or on special teams.
Yeah.
Love it. And so I know like your process, and I could be wrong here, so I guess I don't know. I guess I'll ask you, is at the Draft Network, you guys kind of divvy out parts of the country, right? And kind of focus in on specific schools or, specific areas. Which group are you kind of focused on mainly? I know you scout everyone, but which group are you focused mainly on?
Oh man, right now, so we're not even in our buckets anymore. So we've already kind of like done majority work in our quote unquote regions that we were handed and given out, and then we got schools from. I have a few Big Ten, big. I think the only school. Do I have a Big 12 school? I think I may have like one, maybe one or two. Pac-12, MAC, stuff like that. Of course, SEC and ACC. Like right now, through cross checks, we're heading through. We just finished with like edge rushers, so now it's just like the last group is corners. So it's basically started today, just corners all the way through. You know what I mean, to close it out. So which is good because then you get to, with the cross checks, having them guys lumped into position groups, you get to compare a Derek Hall to a Byron Young from Tennessee, right? Will McDonald, who I feel like I might be higher on than a lot of people.
Me too.
You know what I mean? Watching him compared to any of the other edge rushers, right? Because these guys are, on our spreadsheet, they're back to back. So with corner, it's the same thing right now. Be able to watch Joey Porter and then watch Devin Witherspoon in totality. It's like, all right, I just watched both of these guys back to back. Before I watch anybody else, what sets one apart from the other? Who has the higher ceiling? And that creates those talking points where when we're talking about these prospects, it makes it easier. Like, okay, I could see Joey Porter going higher because he's 6'3", 6'4", 35-inch arms and everything. And Devin Witherspoon doesn't check any of those boxes in terms of physically, but he's so physical and just naturally athletic and technically sound. So, just as an example. So I can't wait to really dive into these guys the next couple days, which I'll be done I think midweek of next week, right before a week before the draft. I'll be completely finished. Thank God.
Well, we here in Minnesota, we need some physical corners. I know you said you're just kind of getting into it, but I'm assuming that there are some cornerbacks that you feel confident speaking about, and yeah, who are some in your mind that would be a perfect fit for a guy like Brian Flores' scheme?
Man, with Flores and coming from the New England style system, I mean, you think about playing a lot of press man coverage, but still being able to disguise and throw some zone in there, show man, drop off into cover 3 and different things, or cover 2 and different things like that. And one of the more guys that are just like, he's physically gifted. He didn't have the year that he had in 2021, which part of that, from what I was told, is due to him not being playing at the same weight. He was a little bulkier this year, and that was Keely Ringo from Georgia, man. Big, long, explosive athlete, right? And a guy that he's to me, I think he's scheme versatile. If you want to play heavy man, you can play man-to-man coverage with him. Let him get to the line of scrimmage. Let him be physical and reroute and disrupt the timing of these receivers. Or if you want to play him, you think to last year, Tariq Woolen, Sauce Gardner, both of those guys fell to schemes that were heavily zone, cover 3 zone type of schemes. But with Tariq, especially with Tariq Woolen, you saw him against the Cardinals. DeAndre Hopkins comes back. It's like, yeah, forget all that zone stuff. I need you to go man-to-man with him. And he was able to pretty much cover him very well. So I think Keely Ringo, you have another body type and skill set similar to those guys in the sense where you can use him like that. And I think he would fit what Brian Flores wants to do and just be physical at the line of scrimmage, but also understanding unless you really get him to stop and start at a high capacity, you're not outrunning Keely Ringo. You know what I mean? It's very rare you see a foot race where he's on tape and guys are running by him without any altering their speed and their tempos or their movements.
What's his range like draft stock almost? Because I feel like in the early portions of like the off season, people were like, yeah, top 20 or like fringe 20th, because he was frequently mocked to the Vikings early on, and I don't see him much anymore. And we don't have a second round pick in Minnesota, so that might be part of the problem. But where do you think he could land on draft day?
And it's so tough because, like I said, coming off of just not so much even a down year, but just to the expectations, a down year. You know what I mean? When we expect him to solidify himself as CB1, then we got the Chris Gonzalez's, we have the Julius Brents, the Joey Porter. Is like everybody else kind of leapfrogged him in a way, as the season went on, and then the post, especially because he wasn't at, he's a true junior, so he wasn't at the Senior Bowl or Shrine. He couldn't get a eye on him in an actual game manner, besides of course being at the national championship. I think his landing spot is going to be more so that like inside the middle of the 20s on back. He could have probably gone a little earlier if the Bucks didn't bring back Jamel Dean, because he kind of fits that kind of usage as well. But since he's back, I don't think a team, especially with these other corners having more hype and more love in the draft world and from the NFL standpoint, because I know a couple of teams looked at Keely Ringo as a safety because of how he was built. And I'm like, so if he gets back down to 2021 where he was like 205 and he played at that weight after being a little bit heavier this year, from what I was told, like I think he could be a legitimate starting corner. So I think 25 on back or in the middle of the 20s. So that pick that you guys have in the first round, I think that's a nice little sweet spot for him. But, I could see him slide into the second round.
So obviously we're talking Brian Flores, we're talking his defense. He's had opportunity over the last few years, or, back in his New England days, where he's developing these like later round or even undrafted guys, right? You look at Jonathan Jones, you look at JC Jackson, right? Some guys to go on and get some decent paydays. Who are maybe some of those later round prospects if we decide to kind of hold off, say maybe we go receiver round 1? We were talking about that on our show last night. Who are maybe some of the later round guys that you like that are maybe diamonds in the rough?
Darius Rush out of South Carolina.
That's the second time we've heard that name this week.
Like he wasn't in my bucket initially, so I didn't get a chance to see him prior to the Senior Bowl. But man, seeing him down in Mobile, like getting the eye on him, like the height, the length, the build, and just also the way he carried himself. He was kind of a silent assassin type. Like he didn't talk a lot. When I saw him at practice, he was very locked in. He treated it like a business trip. Like I came here with a goal, with a purpose, and I'm going to execute that. And there were so many reps of him running the route for the receiver. You know what I mean? Yeah, all corners, even Brents. Everybody had a couple reps they lost because those were some pretty talented receivers out there as well. But man, he was so impressive to me. Patient, understanding how to read the hip, playing trail technique, and baiting and just reading guys, understanding like, hey, I have outside leverage. I can run with you. And I don't think a lot of people, no one knew how fast he really was until he got to the combine. It was like, okay, I see why you were so patient, because you knew you had recovery speed. And that's where, the athleticism comes into play when you're just a natural raw athlete, because he's very, very patient in terms of, okay, I'll let you stack me and I'm playing trail, and it's like, hey, I got outside leverage. So if you break inside, I'm cutting underneath. But also, if you break outside, you're breaking right into my leverage. All I got to do is turn around and take the ball away anyway, right? Or the quarterback's not going to throw it your way. But if you want to go vertical, I have the speed to where I can get back in the face and catch back up with you. I think he's a name, and all this is going to be dictated based on when the run for corners start. It's going to start in the first round. And then it just really depends on, okay, if we get the first 4 guys out the way, and then there's another run in the second round, which I think is a very strong possibility. Then a guy like Darius Rush will, where he may, if some people have him 4th round grade, he may be he may end up going 3rd round, mainly because the run is crazy enough. Like the NFL draft is very much like fantasy football drafts in the sense of you don't want to go a position until the run starts. You know what I mean? And you don't want to be the last one to hop on the train when the run starts.
Well, so the Vikings did that last year with they waited, and all you got is Andrew Booth left, and you kind of have to go get him,
No, 100%. So it's like you don't want to be in the fantasy draft. You're the last one trying to reach for a quarterback or find a quarterback or a defense or anything like that. You want to be in that middle spot. So I think there's going to be 1 to 2 runs, and I think Darius Rush is a guy that I really like. Kitral Clark is one that, shout out to my boy Keith Sanchez. He's the one who put him on the radar for me, and he's talked very well about this young man. Active feet, sticky in coverage, good athlete for the most part. So I think
more of a nickel guy, right?
Yeah, I think he's more of a nickel guy, and it's just all about now, and I think with Flores, they were willing to play some nickel guys or smaller guys out wide, depending on the matchup. And nowadays, with all these guys moving around, big receivers going into the slot, small guys going out wide, just to create mismatches, you want a guy that can kind of transition in and out, and things like that. Another deep sleeper that a lot of people don't know about is Coastal Carolina's Lance Boykin. A 6'3", long arm corner, can play press man, also drop off into zone, and he's a guy scrappy, competes at the catch point, and I feel like his best football is ahead of him. So he's a guy that more than likely on day 3, round 4 and 5, I think he ran pretty solid at the combine. So that's another name, deep sleeper name that you could definitely stay tuned with, because he's got the height, the length, and the athleticism that I think Brian Flores will cover at the outside position.
It's funny you mentioned Clark. I think even Jordan Reed came on our show with Jason a couple weeks back, and he had mentioned Kitral Clark as his favorite day 3 day 3 corner. So good eyes there. If I have Damian Parson saying it and Jordan Reed saying it, I'm gonna believe it. I hadn't got to his film yet, so I hear it's good, but I haven't got to it yet.
No, for sure. I mean, this is a deep cornerback class where if you're a team like the Vikings that you want to continue to add, especially losing, letting go of Cam Dantzler, and you got to hope that Andrew Booth can stay healthy going into year 2, so he can get the processing and speed of the game down packed, right, and really take that next step as a player. But those are, you got Caleb Evans, who was at Tulsa, then transferred to Missouri, tall, longer kid as well. You just got to, you walk into the situation like, man, you know what? If we don't get one in round 1, there will be other names in this class that, granted, are they day 1 starters? Not all of them. They may take, a year to really get up to speed, you know what I mean? To where you really get to see the fruit of your labor, but this is a good class.
Let's switch topics here, because we've touched corner, and I think that's one of the top needs for the Vikings, but I want to get your thoughts on wide receiver, because a lot of fans, I think, are hoping that the Vikings go wide receiver in round 1. But then Jim Nagy the other week, kind of put out a nugget that, not a lot of these NFL teams view these receivers as first-round talent, maybe with the exception of Jackson Smith and Jigba. Are there guys that you think or would be comfortable taking at 23? And then additionally, we can talk about those day 2, day 3 sleepers.
Man, yeah, I feel like, especially for the back end of the first round where you guys are kind of positioned at, you already have a stud, right? And I think that's where that conversation changes, because if you're looking for a true wide receiver 1 and you feel like it's only JSN, okay, yeah, that statement may be true. But if a team like the Vikings, who already has that elite, top 5 receiver, you need a number 2. You look at Zay Flowers if he falls out of Boston College. A smaller guy but plays big, explosive, good contact balance, good route runner, sudden and very electric with the ball in his hands. A guy that can make a play from anywhere. Line up in the backfield. You think about the early usage of Randall Cobb when the Packers drafted him because out of Kentucky years ago. Feels like 2 decades almost. He's been in the league for so long. But you think about that and how they just moved him everywhere. They will line him in the slot, put him in the backfield, motion him into the slot, and create matchups. And that's what Zay Flowers can do for an offense. Josh Downs is one of my favorite receivers in this class. North Carolina, man, 5'10", but a guy that battles at the and competes at the catch point. And you rarely see guys sub 6 foot that are able to play the ball so well at the highest point. And he does a great job of that. 38 inches in the vertical, 4'4", late 4'4" guy, I think 4'4", 4'9". But one of the smoothest route runners in this class, a guy that knows how to set you up, attack different areas to really open up. You always want to move a guy to get to your lane, and he does a great job of doing that. And I wouldn't, like I said, back into the first, I don't have a problem selecting either one of those guys. But this is one of those drafts where if you do this is where I feel teams are gonna get themselves in trouble. You go by that mantra like, we only have one guy graded as a first round pick, and then that's JSN. All right, cool. I don't hear any crying if Quentin Johnson falls to 31 and he goes to Kansas City, and now you're trying to figure out how this happened. You know what I mean? This is what you don't want, or especially with the Vikings, like having Justin Jefferson. That's another name. Like if Quentin Johnson falls down the board, and if you're going to keep Kirk Cousins and not trade him and not trade up for Will Levis, like I've seen in some of these recent crazy mocks, I'll run the card in. Like here's my card for Quentin Johnson, because now he's coming in as a high-level wide receiver 2 that has everything to take advantage of single coverage that he's going to face with Justin Jefferson on the opposite side.
So you like Quentin Johnson then? Because
a lot.
I think there's mixed reviews. I know Ryan and I don't really. I think he's going to be a good prospect. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't see that wide receiver 1 ability in him, in that elite level of play that people kind of project. So can you convince me on him a little bit? Because I don't see it. And you're way more. You're the expert, so my opinion doesn't matter. But I'm curious.
All of our opinions matter, man. All of ours. No, a lot of people, and I get the criticism of him. I was actually asked, what was one of the biggest things with him that will turn me off is like he uses that 41-inch vertical to a T. Like he will jump over most guys, but he doesn't fully extend at the catch point. Gets a little lazy in terms of allowing it to come into his frame. A guy that I feel like with his release package needs to improve. The biggest thing with him is those type of issues are all coachable, right? Like those are things that you could fix. If it's something that you can't fix, that's when you have that type of conversation. Am I okay passing on him? Am I okay missing on him? Because thinking about it from a history standpoint, you fast forward 3 years on the line and he develops the things that he needed to work on, and now he's one of the premier receivers in the league. Are you okay saying, well, I'm fine that we passed on him? Or he's like, man, maybe we should have thought about it. So it's like the route running, this year, talking to a coach down there, Sonny Dykes came in and basically scrapped the route tree. They simplified everything, and that was to help the quarterbacks. Max Dugan wasn't even supposed to be the starter. I forget the young man name that was supposed to start over him, but he got hurt.
Chandler Morris.
Yes. So they simplified the offense and the route tree for the quarterbacks to make it easier for them. Quick decisions, don't hold on to the ball, get it out of your hands. That's why I saw a lot of drags, mesh concept, go routes, comebacks, things like that, where it's like, all right, I don't have to wait forever, you know what I mean, for the route concepts to develop. So that's something. But even going back to 2021 for me, when I watched the tape, I was talking to Keith about this the other day. I was like, I felt like he ran better. He ran way more routes in 2021 than he ran in 2022. And then talking to the coach there let me know, like, okay, that makes sense. So I think for him, I see this: the height, the speed, the body type, the body control. Like, this is a guy for 6'2", 200 plus pounds, has insane amount of twitch to be able to press you vertically and stop on a dime. But not only stop on a dime, he has an innate ability of spatial awareness where he understands, like, when I catch the ball, I kind of have a feel of where the defender's leverage is as he's driving on me to make a tackle. And that's the Kansas game, I think OK State. You see him with those curl routes, be able to catch it, give a little shake, and then pivot out of it. And I think his ability after the catch is extremely rare for a guy his build. You don't see guys that's able to make things happen post catch as well as he's able to. So I think a lot of his stuff is more coachable. And those type of things, I feel like he's one of the high ceiling developmental prospects where you work on him. Hey, Quentin, work on your feet first, hand second, and press coverage. That's how you beat press. Get better. Expand your release package so that you can quickly win and get vertical, and you're not wasting time at the line of scrimmage, or you're not throwing the same moves at guys like Akili Ringo, who you beat him the first time, that second time he stonewalled you, and now you got to, okay, I need to add more to my bag. So I feel like his bag is big where you can put things in it compared to some guys who they're physically limited, so their bag is full, but the bag is actually small.
You know, I can't remember who said this on our podcast that when we had them on, but they likened him to Laviska Shenault, again, which I don't know if that's a fair comparison or not. A big body guy who is great after the catch, but so I'm like, okay, well, let me go back and watch, and I didn't necessarily see that, but I can kind of see where they're coming from in terms of just the run after catch ability. Yeah. But like, is that where he's going to ceiling out at if he can't improve upon some of these things that you're saying? I thought it was a fair, but maybe a little disrespectful. I don't have him super high in my top 10 list of receivers, but it's just because there's so many, even though that this receiver class is relatively small, like just in size, pure size, it's very small, but we have a lot, and you alluded to a couple of them earlier, a lot of really good route runners. And I think maybe us being Minnesota Vikings fans, we're probably a little scarred, right? Because the last kind of big body guy we took was Laquan Treadwell, and you saw how well that worked out, right? Yeah. So now we're looking for, okay, who's going to be crisp guys who can get open? That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, we want the Diggs and Thielens again. Give me those elite route runners.
Yeah, so if you can get that, and again, there's so many guys in this draft that where Quentin Johnson could get there because the he's got abilities clearly, but will he versus guys who are already ready to go? So we've talked about some of these day one guys. Late second, let's say we trade back, right, and we still need a receiver. We trade back into the second, or we stay pat at our third. Maybe just like two names that you really like in that range, and then maybe two names in that day three sleeper category.
Marvin Mims out of Oklahoma.
Here we go.
I was waiting for somebody.
I really like Marvin Mims, man, and it's another one where the school didn't ask him to run a Chris route tree at Oklahoma. He talked about that at the combine, but he says, I work hard with my wide receiver coach, so I know how to run routes. They just didn't ask me to run a ton of them. And I think the explosiveness, the speed, the ball skills for a guy 5'10", 5'11" is really impressive as well. I think he gives you inside, outside flexibility. And I think this is the type of guy that, you think about how Justin Jefferson is going to command so much attention. And with the play action and everything else, those safeties going to roll down to bracket him. Cool. I got a guy that has that deep speed that can take the top off. And if you leave him one-on-one, and if you give him a free run, that it can really hurt you.
He can stack his guys so well. So like he gets them not knowing which way he's going to go. And I fully agree with you. That 4.38 speed, like that's exactly what we need on this team.
No, I really like him a lot. And Jaden Reed out of Michigan State, 2021, it was a big year for him. When they had Kenneth Walker and the offense was running at a much more efficient pace. The quarterback play just was very uneven in 2022. But this young man knows how to get open. He's good in open field, good after the catch. And another guy that has ball skills. And those are like those smaller, quote unquote, smaller receivers that aren't 6'2", 6'3". If you do have the ball skills, that's an extra feather in the cap for me. He has that. I can't remember if it was the Wisconsin game. I can't remember if it was Nebraska maybe, but he caught one at the end of the game where they sent him on a fade, and he literally body control, spins midair, snatches it out of the air and gets the touchdown. And he has that to
win the game. That was against Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Yeah, Wisconsin. He talks trash. He pairing his mentality with a Justin Jefferson. I love that, especially with TJ Hawkinson controlling the middle of the field. So those are some guys on day two, and I think day 3, man, you think about a guy like Dontavion Wicks from Virginia had a really strong 2021 season. Tony Elliott gets there to Virginia in 2022. I don't know what happened, but everything bottomed out. Quarterback play wasn't the same. I think that Wicks got hurt a little bit as well, but this is a guy that knows how to create separation. He can run pretty good routes as well, good release package, and understands tempo and pacing in terms of moving guys off the spot. So I really like him. And if you did want a big target, I view him more as a day 3 guy, but I know a lot of people like him as day 2 is A.T. Perry from Wake Forest. Big, 6'4", 6'3", 6'4". He can run. He can open his stride. Is he a immediate starter, like instant speed? Maybe not, but a guy that can build up down the field, has good ball skills, similar to Quentin Johnson. If you didn't want to go Quentin Johnson in the first round, but a guy that can run solid routes for a tall, longer leg receiver, and I think a guy that would pair it well with what you already have on your offense.
I love all those names, and we've talked about them at length on this show. And so just you coming on here and really just kind of validating our thoughts, like, makes me feel good about myself.
Well, I can help.
I want to thank you for hopping on with us tonight. Before we let you go, let the people know where they can find you, what you're working on, anything in the pipe that's going to be released here soon.
For sure. Of course, find me on Twitter at DP_NFL. I'm also co-host of the Locked On NFL Draft podcast over with the Locked On Podcast Network with my guy, 2019 LSU champion over there, coaching Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. He's got story for days. My boy Keith Sanchez. You know what I mean? So tap in with us there, YouTube or audio. Just search it in Google. It'll lead you right to us.
It's a great podcast too.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. We have a lot of fun. Of course, all the scouting reports and everything over at thedraftnetwork.com. And man, just getting through this getting through this draft class and then preparing myself for 2024 shortly after.
Enjoy the next couple weeks, because I'm sure it's going to be chaotic. But thank you again for hopping on. For everybody watching this, be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Doing a giveaway at 3,000 subscribers, a custom Skol piece by That's Badass Wood Art. We have plenty more content coming up leading up to the NFL draft, and then we got you covered from that point forward. So until next time, everybody, Skol Vikings.